Alright, so today I'm going to be looking at people who trusted their gut instincts. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. My smoke detector was driving me nuts. It kept giving off this intermittent chirping sound every hour or so, and it was driving my dog crazy. In the end, I disconnected the battery, promising myself I'd get a new one the next day. I went to bed, but I was tossing and turning and I just couldn't sleep. And all I could think about was that smoke alarm. Eventually, I got up, reconnected the battery and went back to bed. I was awoken a few hours later to the sound of the alarm screaming. I got out of bed and stomped to the door, ready to pull the whole thing off the ceiling. But when I put my hand on the door handle, it was so hot I had to let go. That's when I noticed the smoke seeping under the door. I grabbed my dog, who luckily sleeps with me, and managed to get him and me out of the window safely to the ground. Pretty much the whole house was destroyed, but I'm just thankful that something told me to put the battery back in. Whoa, oh my goodness. I would actually be so lazy. I would actually just put it back in the next day. But I guess something told her, you know, I guess something was like, do it. Thank gosh the dog slept with her. Man, lazy people are gonna be so screwed. Honestly, it's just like, I'll do it like next week. I actually wonder how many people don't listen to their gut feelings. I was driving home from dinner at my sister's with my husband and 3 children when there was a sound of metal scraping on the road. I figured the tailpipe was dragging, so I pulled over so my husband could get under the car and see what was going on. Our youngest was only 5 months at the time and she was asleep, so I left her to sleep in the back seat while myself and 2 older children got out and stood next to the car. It was a really quiet road, no traffic at all, but for some reason I felt like I needed the baby with me. I went into the back seat and pulled out my baby girl and wrapped her inside my jacket. As soon as I reached the kids, who were a few feet behind the car, I turned around to check on my husband, crouching with a flashlight. Out of nowhere, this truck sped past and hit the back of my car, with my husband still looking underneath it. I watched the car get shunted along the road, dragging my husband with it. He survived, but he almost lost his leg, and he had several fractured ribs. Had my baby girl still been in the car, she would have been instantly killed. That is so scary. Honestly though, whenever I see people under the car, my fear is that somehow they'll get crushed under it or something. Like, I don't know. This is going back about a decade, but I was in a department store shopping for Christmas presents and I needed to go up to the top floor to use the restroom because the lower one was under construction. I'm not normally claustrophobic, but as more and more people piled into the elevator, I started to get this horrible feeling like if something happens in here, I'll never get out kind of thing. But the feeling got stronger, and as the doors closed, I yelled at the people in front to open the doors again. A few people cussed at me under their breath, but I didn't care. I just knew I needed to get out. I left the store and went to the gross small restroom. When I got home, I switched on the TV and breaking news came on about the store I'd been in. The elevator had malfunctioned and was stuck between floors for hours. Oh my gosh, the people who cussed under their breath probably wished they had gotten out too, you know. What had happened was that one of the cables had snapped and the emergency brakes had caught them. Firefighters thought it could be because the elevator was so overloaded. This is why I'm scared of elevators, you know. I hate going on elevators. I mean, I know this kind of thing is really, really rare, but still, it could still happen. There's still a possibility, so I still hate elevators. When I was in my first year of studying to be a nurse, I got invited to go out to a beach party on Friday night. None of us had a car, but as the party was a good hour's drive away, we couldn't afford the taxi ride. So we started asking around to some of our other classmates. One of the TAs in our class overheard us talking about it, so he offered to take us as he had friends close to the place we were going, and he'd come and pick us up on his way home. My friends were really excited that we got to go, and I was too. A beach party is one of those essential college experiences, and I was really needing a night off. But as Friday got closer and closer, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go anymore. We all knew the guy, he was always nice and polite, so I had no reason to feel uneasy, but I did, and I couldn't shake it. My friends convinced me to go still. On the evening of the night, he picked us up and drove us to the party, gave us his cell number, and told us to call him when we were ready. Just after midnight, I called a cab, figuring I could ask my mum for some extra cash if I really needed it, and we all went and spent the night on my floor. The next day, we were told that the guy had crashed his car and was 3 times the legal limit for driving. The photos on the news sent shivers down my spine. The car was a total wreck, and anyone sitting in the passenger or back seats would have been killed outright. I was really glad I caught a cab that night. Oh, thank gosh, because they saved their friends too. Oh my gosh, yeah, this is why you should listen to your friend when they have a gut feeling. I had just started running a weight loss club with the gym I worked at, and it was my first night. I was nervous but looking forward to it. The place I had booked to hold a session was in a community center. Not knowing how many people were going to turn up, I chose a larger room just in case. Quite a few people came, but as I was welcoming people at the door, I got a sick feeling about these noises from above the room. It just sounded like cleaning or something normal, but my eyes kept being drawn to the ceiling, so much so that several of the members kept looking up as well. Ceilings again, really. No, don't tell me the ceiling is gonna collapse, because I read a few stories about that collapsing. How common is it for a ceiling to collapse? Uncommon, right? I told the group I'd be back in a minute and went out to find the building manager, telling him I'd like the smaller room. He shrugged, unlocked the door for me, and I herded everyone into the smaller room. We were about 30 minutes into the class when there was a loud crash from the other room. We ran out into the hallway to have a look, and the entire ceiling had collapsed in the big room, right onto the chairs where we had all been sitting half an hour before. The majority of the group would have been crushed. I called the building manager a week later, and he said there was a big water leak that had weakened everything, and the noises I heard were probably the supports beginning to break down. Oh, like that cracky noise? How common is it for ceilings to just collapse like that? That is scary. I had been looking for a new house to rent for myself and my 3 children. I was newly divorced and it was a fresh start for all of us. We looked at maybe a dozen houses, none of which felt quite right, but the last house was different. It wasn't pretty or as modern as the rest of them, but as I walked in, I felt safe. The agent explained that the bars across the window were kick bars and the police had put them in as a precaution. She offered to have them taken off, but I told her just to leave them. No need to create more work for someone else when it adds a bit of protection. A couple of months later, I was asleep when I heard the sound of smashing glass downstairs. I called 911 and hid with my kids upstairs. When they got to my house, the intruder was still there trying to get in. He'd smashed the windows, but because of the kick bars, he'd not been able to get through. The next day, the police came to tell me that the man that arrested was the husband of the previous tenant, who had no idea his wife had moved. Thank gosh for the bars, okay? Thank gosh for the bars. I do feel like it's always better for windows to have like an extra protection, because if someone can so easily just break into your window by just throwing something at it, what's the point, right? It's always better to have extra protection. I always call my mum every day just to say hi and catch up on how things were going. This one day about a year ago, I called her as usual, but there was no answer. I tried a couple more times, but still she didn't pick up. This wasn't unusual. She often went out or spent time in the garden and wouldn't hear the phone. But when she would notice a missed call from me, she'd always call back. Still, something was telling me she wasn't okay. I tried to ignore it, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't leave me alone. So I jumped in my car and headed over to her house. I had a key, so I let myself in, calling her name. That's when I saw her on the ground in the garden. I performed CPR until the medics arrived, and thankfully she survived. Apparently she suffered a heart attack. We had no idea she had heart problems, so there was nothing to warn me apart from my gut feeling. Definitely pay attention to it now. That is the scariest, when you think something has happened to like your family. That gut feeling she had actually saved her mum. This is why I do feel like we have like a connection with our family members. When my doorbell rang one morning, I assumed it was a package from the postman. It was close to Christmas and I had done a lot of online shopping, so I was super excited to see what I had bought and start wrapping before the kids came home from school. I was halfway down the stairs when the doorbell rang again. I stopped dead. Something about that second ring sounded ominous. Sounds crazy, right? But I knew that whoever was outside my door was dangerous. There are no windows on my front door, so I couldn't see who it was. I tiptoed to the back door and made sure it was locked, then stood in the hall waiting. Eventually, I heard footsteps walking back down my path, so I ran upstairs and peeked out through a crack in the curtains. 2 men were getting into a white van and looking back at my house before driving off. Whoa. So like that second bell ring, she was like, hold on a second, this isn't the postman. The postman doesn't ring twice. Honestly though, whenever someone knocks on my front door, I'm always just thinking, hold on a second, did I buy this? When did I buy it? When did it say it was gonna be delivered? And like I'll calculate everything and then I'll be like, yeah, it should be them. But if things don't add up, then I'm just like, wait, I didn't order anything. Who is it? This is actually so crazy to me because I wouldn't think about like a second doorbell ring. Like I wouldn't feel like a second doorbell will change my thought process kind of thing. That's crazy. A few years ago, I was working at a bar, and after a few months of working there, a new guy started. All the girls were flirting with him, and admittedly, he was hot. I guess maybe he liked the thrill of the chase because he started flirting with me almost immediately, even though I kept my distance. I'm generally pretty shy and hate making the first move. My manager put him on the bar shift with me, and the other girls asked me about working with the hottie, but honestly, he kinda gave me the creeps. Couldn't figure out why. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was something about him which sent my alarm bells into overdrive. Anyway, after a few shifts, he asked me on a date. Lucky me, right? But something told me to stay away from him, so I made my excuses and turned him down. He kept asking, but when he realized I wasn't going to change my mind, he started flirting with another girl. Whoa, that is fishy. She of course said yes and even said I was stupid to turn him down. Whatever, right? I told her that there was something off about him, but she said they were going dancing at a new club that night, so I let it go. Safety in numbers and all that jazz, plus it's really not my business. The next evening, neither of them showed up at work. I was a little concerned, but mostly annoyed as it meant we were 2 people down. Then the police showed up, asking all of us questions about the guy. No. They had found her unconscious in a car, and the people who called 911 thought she was dead. She recovered physically, but she never came back to work. That is sad. Because she knew something was off, but her friend just didn't listen to her. And it's not like she had evidence to show her friend not to go out with a guy, you know, because it's all based on feelings. Oh, that's annoying. This is why if your friend or someone warns you about someone else, I think it's better to listen to them, because it's better to be safe than sorry. Like, even if the gut feeling wasn't right, at least nothing happened to you, right? Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are, and as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!